And welcome to Buckeye Huddle Prime Time. It's your friend Juck. Appreciate you so much for joining me. We got a loaded show tonight. Gabby, how we doing? It is Juck indeed. Appreciate you for joining me, buddy. Boy, I had to scramble to get the show together tonight, guys. I might need your help to carry me through the finish line. As always, feel free to get your super chats in. I will always get to those. And if you wait till I'm done with my segments, I usually hop in the chat. If you got a topic and you want to bring it up on the show, wait till I'm done, pop it in there, and I will do my best to get to it, a question or any topics you want to talk about at the end. But a big press conference today down at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, and it is the last time we're going to hear from Ryan Day, Matt Patricia, and Brian Hartline. Well, the coordinators, we might not hear from them for a while, but Ryan Day for certain until after the Texas game. So I made the trip down, guys. It was my first ever press conference. And as someone who has watched those things, so many of those over the last year and a half in particular, it was a really cool experience. There were several times throughout this press conference that I was telling myself, like, stop smiling, because I was smiling so big. Like, you probably look like a fool here. So I had to concentrate on not smiling, but it was awesome. Anyway, Ryan Day cut straight to the chase. And said, I'm not going to talk about the ruling on Friday. And I had no idea what he was talking about because it never even crossed my mind that somebody was going to ask him about the Michigan thing. Now, surely they would have. My point is, it wasn't on my mind. And I was thinking last week, I said, I was happy that this thing didn't come in the middle of the summer, because had it come in the middle of the summer, it would be all the talk for a long time. And the fact that they released it so close to the season, like, it's football now. We've got football this week. So the story's already yesterday's news, though I would really love to hear what Ryan Day had to say about that candidly. But then, of course, after that, he came right out with this.
All right, before we get going, I'm sure some of you guys want me to comment on Friday's report, but I'm not going to do that. My responsibilities to the Buckeyes, my responsibilities to this team, and making sure that we're ready to play in 12 days, and that's where we're going to keep the focus. That being said, Julian Sayin will be the starting quarterback against Texas. It was a close competition. I think both guys, we all feel confident, can win a game for us. I think Julian separated himself really over the last week with his consistent play. I feel like our guys are confident again with both quarterbacks. I think we'll need both quarterbacks. Lincoln did a lot of great things. But we're going to name Julian the starter here, give him the majority of the reps with the ones.
There we go. Julian Sayin, the starting quarterback for these 2025 Buckeyes. Ryan Day let them both know just this morning before practice. And this, of course, is no surprise to most, but I'm sure not everybody's happy about it. Quarterback competitions tend to do that, split the fan base a little bit, though I didn't feel it near as much with this one as we have in some past. But Julian Sayin has all the qualities Ryan Day looks for in a quarterback, except for big. He really loved Will Howard's size, man. He brought it up all the time. But other than size, he's Ryan Day's dream. Quick processor. He's accurate, not afraid to let it rip downfield, athletic enough to escape. And he brought up his athleticism as well today. I think it was always his job. He just had to earn it. And he did have to earn it, and he did earn it. Obviously, he was well positioned to earn it. He passed Lincoln last year as a true freshman, and that alone made him a pretty heavy favorite coming into this thing. Every position at Ohio State, if there's not an incumbent starter, it's going to be a position battle. And in the spring, it looked like these two were kind of going back and forth with each other. And I was pretty surprised by that. Happy for Lincoln that he was playing so good. In the student appreciation scrimmage, Lincoln outplayed Julian, and it was looking real good for him at that point. Then in the spring game, Julian outplayed him. So you kind of enter camp a little up in the air. And day one of camp, Lincoln got the better of Julian. And then kind of ever since then, it's just been more Julian momentum building. And Ryan Day said that this past week, Julian really separated himself with very consistent play, obviously making the routine plays routinely. That's our guy's go-to there. But he saw a lot of growth. He said Julian's smart, poised, composed. His timing's gotten very good. And what I think is maybe most importantly, and Dave's been stressing this all offseason, that it's more than the throws. It's more than the reads. It's command of the huddle. It's command of the offense. It's confidence. He's stressed being loud. And he said that publicly a couple of times, and I think a lot of that is related to Julian, that he just wants him to be more loud and take more ownership of it. And he's seeing that now, so that's great. But he said, you see the traits, you see the accuracy, and that's everything we thought this guy was coming out of high school. I'll admit I was disappointed when he went to Bama, really happy when we got him. This guy has the ability to be lethal. He's got the ability to be lethal in an offense with this many weapons, providing that this offensive line can be what a lot of us think it can be, which is very, very good. I think we are in for one heck of a fun season watching Julian Sayin kind of come of age. Won't be perfect at first, I'm sure, but he can be the dude. He absolutely can be the dude, and it seems pretty clear that he won this pretty soundly, and he earned it. So I think it's all good stuff, man. I've seen some people that think that maybe if Texas was not game one, that Ryan Day would have carried this on a little longer, maybe carried this into the season like he did with Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. But I remember Ryan Day saying pretty clearly earlier this offseason that he would not want to do a situation like that again. I don't take everything Ryan Day says at face value. I think sometimes he's speaking for players on the team to hear him, guys in the locker room, and he's a coach. He has to do that. I definitely believe him when he says he doesn't want to do that again. It did not seem good. It felt clunky. When he said they were going to split reps, they didn't split reps really. It just was not. You want to give a guy confidence. He wants to be more decisive, give his quarterback confidence, and give him the opportunity to prepare as a starter for 2 weeks heading into the season. And now Julian has just that. He's got 2 full weeks to prepare as the starter. Ryan Day said he will be the one getting more reps, and Lincoln will still get some because he will be, a vital backup. And Ryan stressed that he believes that they're going to need Lincoln at some point this year, and Lincoln believes that he's going to play as well. He wasn't discouraged. He had good energy, and that's really good. He's a great teammate, and it is probably very likely that the Buckeyes will need him at some point this year. And I think everybody will be happy to see him get that opportunity, so long as it's not from an injury. He's a great Buckeye. Lincoln is. Certainly has a lot of skill, just doesn't quite have the accuracy as Julian yet at this point in his career. But outside of injury, Day was asked if Lincoln's athleticism could be used in some kind of specialty offensive package, and he said, sure. Now, not much of an elaborate answer, but he didn't rule it out. We also don't know if he's going to play him much like in the fourth quarter when the game's well in hand, which is something of a catch-22. You want as many reps as you can for Julian, every single one you can get. You also don't want to put him in harm's way if you're up by 28 in the fourth quarter, and you also want Lincoln to get some reps too. So I'm really curious to see how he plays that. But if you're bringing him in a package just to use his athleticism, it's almost like, well, you can't do the regular offense. We're going to throw you this. I don't know, man. I waver back and forth on whether or not that's a good idea or not. But I think that if I was watching a game and the Buckeyes were at the 5-yard line and Lincoln came trotting out, I'd probably get pretty excited. I think I would. Either way, it's a good situation to have a quality backup. My good buddy Dylan Davis from the Delaware Gazette asked Ryan Day about Tavian St. Clair. Ryan Day said he knows right now what his deficiencies are, and he knows that he can be the quarterback of the future. He has the tools, but right now he is the clear number 3. So that's where we're at. So let me know in the chat, are you happy with today's decision? Would you like to see a package using Lincoln's athleticism? I'm curious how the folks feel about that. Some real quick news out of California while we're talking quarterbacks about the backup from the previous 2 years at Ohio State, and that would be Devin Brown. Last year, Devin Brown was backing up Will Howard. The year before, Kyle McCord. Lost those 2 quarterback battles. I don't think last year's was much of a battle, but I really like Devin, and I was really happy that last year he got to come in at Michigan State and throw that touchdown pass to Jeremiah, the one down the sideline right before halftime where he reached out and caught it. It was kind of like his shining moment in that national championship season. And, the Bucs kind of needed that touchdown at the point to go in. I think it was a 24-7 lead at that point, but the game felt pretty close. And Devin, of course, transferred out to Cal. And I was all set to root for Cal this year because I think Devin Brown is just one heck of a Buckeye. And he was always supportive, never made waves, tried his best, man, somehow became some kind of a lightning rod. I don't know why. I never understood it. But we were talking today on the board at BuckeyeHuddle.com, where you can join and get access to all those private conversations that are just really fun. Anyways, we were talking about how we had heard so much in the offseason that year, the McCord and Devin Brown battle, about what a dual threat he was, how athletic he was, just because he was more athletic than McCord. The truth is he was never that coming out of high school at Corner Canyon, and people were pretty shocked when they saw Devin run for the first time, like, wait a minute, this guy doesn't look like a dual threat. Anyway, he wasn't in high school, but his high school film, really, really fun. If you got a minute, check it out. But remember, he was On3's #1 quarterback that year, which somebody also brought up. That entire class of 2022 was just horrific at quarterback because they were evaluated during COVID, and there was just a ton of misevaluations. There's like only 6 starters out of the top 30 quarterbacks in their seniors. But Devin transfers to Cal, and Cal had a very highly rated freshman quarterback committed, Jaron Kiawi-Sagapolotelli. And he flipped to Oregon, then flipped back to Cal. And he's been in a quarterback competition with Devin over camp. And today it was announced that the true freshman beat Devin Brown out. So Devin has now lost his 3rd quarterback competition in a row. And that guy was almost the Ohio State quarterback 2 years ago, just got beat out by a true freshman. He almost won the job at Ohio State. How does that happen? I don't know. But I was getting set to root for Cal. I was excited. All he had to do was pick the right place and go start somewhere, man. Pick the wrong place. I'm disappointed, but what are you going to do, man? Hopefully he gets a shot at some point this year. A few other things that Ryan Day mentioned. Position battles, how many guys are probably going to play at each position? So tight end, he said 4 or 5, and that would be Max Clare, Bennett Christian, Jelani Thurman, Will Kazmarek, and Nate Roberts. Wide receiver, he said 6, JJ, Carnell, Brandon Innes, Mylan Graham, Quincy Porter, Bryson Rogers. Cornerback, he said 4, IGB, Jermaine Matthews, Devin Sanchez, Aaron Scott. I'm saying the names. He didn't say the names. He's just giving the number. I'm saying the names. Nickel 2, so Lorenzo Styles and Bryce West. Safety 3, Caleb, Malik Hartford, and Jalen McClain. And running back 3, Bo, and James Peoples and CJ Donaldson. All right. So that's that with that. Let's get to the offensive line and what I really want to talk about today. We got a lot to get to today, actually. So 2 weeks ago, Ryan Day dropped the Austin Sierreveld and left tackle in the same sentence. He was asked if he needed to correct that. He said no. That's what I meant. I meant Austin Sierreveld and left tackle. Then last week, he said Austin Sierreveld was taking 100% of his reps at left tackle. So he was teasing us. And today he said this.
Sierreveld definitely going to be the left tackle, or is still sorting that out?
Yeah. You guys keep asking these questions. Yeah. All right. Mercy. Yeah. Austin will be the left tackle. But that's it. You guys aren't getting any more.
So it is official. Austin Sierreveld, the starting left tackle at Ohio State. And I think this is just amazing. Like this guy, I had one of our Notre Dame guys that watches Juck on Bucks. And he told me that we're looking at this all wrong. This is a negative thing. And I just refuse to believe it. I think there are so few guys that we have seen have such a rise so fast as Austin Sierreveld. It's just rare that you hear it nonstop. Like everything lines up with his ascension here. It's not like it came out of nowhere. I mean, it did come out of nowhere, but we've heard it along the way. 2 Iron Buckeyes along the way. Like it's not, it's a short amount of time, but the writing's been on the wall if we were paying attention. And I think it's awesome. I can understand from the outside looking in why someone might think that, but we pay attention to this every day. And his rise has just been incredible, man. It's been incredible. Now a captain. I think it's one of the cooler stories we've had in a few years. But there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be successful at left tackle. So we know for sure it's him at left tackle, right? We know for sure it's Carson Hinsman at center. Pretty much for sure Luke Montgomery at left guard. The only way that could change is if Ethan Onyanwa beats out Tegra, and maybe Tegra could beat out Luke, but that's not happening. So Tegra at right guard, Phil Daniels at right tackle is the way it's looking right now. with Ethan Onyanwa on the bench, the sixth man. And that is a 4 out of 5 Ohio offensive line, which I really like. But I am really disappointed with the Ethan Onyanwa news that this guy's not going to be starting. Now, they talked about rotating linemen, and Tyler Bowen was asked about it last week. Last week, he said he's done it before. He's not against it. It's just a matter of, does that 6th or 7th guy deserve it? And Ryan Day said today, we got a starting 5 offensive line, and then we got 2 or 3 more players to work in. And I think it's positive that Austin won the left tackle job. I think it's positive that Phil most likely is winning the right tackle job right now, because we are talking about 3 guys that both have 3 years of eligibility, which means next year we could have potentially our returning tackles coming back, which is awesome. Ethan Onyanwa, a 1-year guy. This is it for him. He's out after this year. But this is a transfer portal whiff. And somebody asked me why I would call it that. This guy cost a lot of money to come in and play left tackle. If you wanted a backup 6th man, you could have paid accordingly for that. That's money you could have spent elsewhere that you spent on a left tackle. And he wasn't cheap. And it got me thinking about the transfer portal as I was driving back from Columbus today. He was playing right tackle at Rice, was Ethan Onyanwa. Not a football school, obviously. By the way, I was looking through his offers. This guy's a genius. Rice is a very, very highbrow institution. He's got the whole Ivy League too, and that's about it. So like Rice, Cornell, Brown, all the Ivy League schools, and then that was it. That's all that was after him. And he was really, really big coming out of high school too. So I'm surprised nobody else got on him down in Texas. But if you pay that money for a guy and he is nothing but a rotational piece, and again, his story's not over, he could end up starting. He could still be great. But if that is the case, when we look at the transfer portal, we don't have a ton of data on it yet, but we look at the big name guys that Ohio State's brought in, the guys from Power 5 schools, Will Howard, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Downs, Seth McLaughlin, Julian Sayin, jury's still out, but those guys are all huge hits. Then you look at pretty big hits. Ty Malone, pretty big hit, I'd say, for what he was. I mean, he wasn't brought in to be a superstar. IGB, they were both out of Ole Miss. Lorenzo Styles out of Notre Dame. Like, these weren't guys that you went out, targeted, and paid a ton of money for. Nigel Glover out of Northwestern, not a hit there. But when we go to the smaller schools, Vic Cutler out of the University of Louisiana Monroe, not a hit. Josh Simmons. Now, he was out of a small school, San Diego State, but he was a guy with pedigree. He was a top 100 guy in the portal. He was a 4-star coming out of high school. That's why Justin Fry was recruiting him at UCLA. He had offers from Oregon, Nebraska, Georgia, Michigan, Penn State. Certainly not all committable offers, but he could have gone to a big-time school. I don't know how he ended up at San Diego State, but he was a smaller school guy that hit for the Buckeyes. Will Kazmarek out of Ohio University wasn't a big-time signing, didn't require any investment, but he has definitely panned out for what he is. But I've got my eye on Logan George. Logan George coming out of Idaho State, been a little dinged up in camp. And like I said, we're still really early in how much data we have to collect with the transfer portal. But if Ethan doesn't pan out as expected and Logan doesn't pan out as expected, I would be really hesitant to bring in another trench player from one of these smaller schools that aren't playing up to the competition, because I think it's a real roll of the dice, man, especially if Ethan, who by all counts was just, he was one of the top guys coming out. The reason he wasn't ranked higher in the transfer portal is because he's only got 1 year left. For instance, Phillip Daniels in 247 was ranked higher than him in the transfer portal, but that's because he's got 3 years of eligibility, which makes him more desirable. Anyway, interesting stuff there. I'll be tracking it. Matt Patricia was asked a ton of questions about Arch Manning today. Obviously, he coached against both of his uncles, which got brought up quite a bit. And he praised Arch a ton, said he saw him, had a chance to see him over the summer. Big, strong kid, great athlete. Patricia's going to have something for him, buddy. This kid is going to have a rough day. He's going to have a rough go in Columbus when he comes up. Patricia seems really excited about being in the college game. This is the second time in a row he's talked about the band, talked about the students. Like, this dude's pumped to coach college football. When asked about when it makes sense to play Caleb Downs at the big nickel, he said as much as you can to get him close to the ball, as much as possible. And he said he's really good around the ball, obviously. He's such a great communicator, so strong at communicating with the deep guys and the down guys, and his football IQ is incredible. It sounds like this big nickel is going to be being played a lot, because if he said as much as possible, I think we're going to see this a whole lot. I think it's awesome to get him down closer to the line. And moving on to Brian Hartline, by the way, man, Brian Hartline, such a presence. This dude's just a presence. So is Laurinaitis. Like those guys, maybe it's just because I'm a huge Buckeye fan, but man, they walk in a room and it's like all eyes on them. It's just total dudes, man. But anyway, it's probably because I'm a big Buckeye fan. Anyway, Hartline praised the heck out of Ryan Day, which I love. You know, the way he talks about him, it's like he's his big brother, and it's pretty cool. The way he talks about his football acumen and his coaching acumen and his offensive mind. But he was asked about something we talked about a couple of weeks ago, being in the box or being on the sideline. And he did not give an answer. He said it's being discussed. Was asked to elaborate the pros and cons, and he didn't really get into it. But it felt to me when this first came up, I think it was me and Mark Givler, when we were at practice, we talked about it that show. It just feels to me like Hartline is the kind of guy who's not going to want to be in that box. He's going to want to be down on the sideline, coaching his wide receivers, coaching his offense from right there, yelling at everybody. That's what he does. And it seemed to me when he answered this question, he doesn't want to be in that box, which is interesting. He said, I can make anything work. He's not going to say no. But I think there's a lot. Look, when we brought this up with Chip Kelly last year, because Chip was wavering on whether or not he wanted to be in the box, there was a lot of fans that were just furious about this. They really were mad. Like they want Chip in that box. And there's a lot of people that are just adamant that an offensive coordinator should be in the box, seeing the whole picture of the field. And, you know, I agree. But if they feel it's better on the field, whatever, I don't really care. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, I think that Chip ultimately wanted to stay on the sideline, and Ryan Day kind of coaxed him into the box. And I think that's probably the same thing that's going to happen with Hart. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. He was asked about Max Clare, and I had to do a double take. Like, why are you asking Brian Hartline about a tight end? He's the wide receivers coach. I do this every time. I'm still not quite used to the fact that he's the OC. But let's get to those wide receivers, because something really irked me. So not this. Quincy Porter was asked about Quincy Porter. How is he doing? And Hart said he did great in spring, but he has to keep building through fall. And based on the answer, it felt to me like maybe Quincy has stalled a little bit, which is natural for a freshman. Then he talked about Des Jones, BP Miller, Phillip Bell. Throughout the day, I heard about Carnell Tate a couple times, Brandon Innes several times, obviously Jeremiah. And it dawned on me as I was driving home that every single wide receiver on the roster got brought up today except for one. One guy was not spoken about. Now, Tom and Tony last night did a show where they were predicting starting lineups and who would play, and I was watching that at Buckeye Huddle on YouTube. And they were both of the opinion that there is a clear-cut number 4 wide receiver on this team. And it's not Mylan Graham. And it's not Quincy Porter. It's my guy, Bryson Rogers. And Bryson Rogers, I believe they're right, is the clear number 4 here. Now, not a lot of people are going to agree with that, but I was so irked that every single wide receiver got spoken about but Bryson Rogers, because this guy is constantly overlooked. I don't understand. He's so smooth. Great hands, excellent route runner, been in the system for a long time, and elite quick. He's just awesome, and he's a great guy. So I cannot wait for Bryson Rogers to prove a bunch of people wrong, and I'm really excited for that. Texas had their second scrimmage, just like Ohio State, on Saturday, and I want to do a little update on what happened down in Austin. But before I do, I want to run through this quick article that I ran across on CBS that irked me a little bit by a fellow named Cody Nagel. Cody Nagel says, at Big Ten Media Days in July, Ryan Day was asked a simple question: how do you beat Michigan? After a brief stumble over his words, the response was blunt: score more points than them. It sounded flippant, maybe awkward. It did sound flippant. because it was a really rude question. It was not the time or the place for that line of questioning. It was awkward to the guy that asked it. In fact, it felt like it was coming from a Michigan media member. And the way Day looked at him, maybe it was. I don't know. I didn't see who was behind the camera. But that question certainly should piss him off in that kind of a setting. It was uncalled for. Anyway, the guy continues. But Day understands the truth that Ohio State, one loss to Michigan can overshadow everything else. Last season's playoff run proved it. The Buckeyes won the national championship, yet the loss to the Wolverines shapes how the season is remembered. Not to this Buckeye. I'm very happy with the season. The losing streak also places Day in historical context, showing just how rare this start has been. He joins John Cooper as the only Buckeyes coach since Woody Hayes to win fewer than 2 of his first 5. And he goes on to list the records of Ryan Day, Urban Meyer, Jim Tressel, John Cooper, and Earl Bruce. And he tries to make this sound like this is some big outlier, when in fact, him and John Cooper are 2 of the 5. So 2 on this side, 3 on this side. That's not a huge statistical outlier, pal. If they can top the Wolverines this year, it won't just be a win. It will be a reclamation of pride, a turning point in his tenure. Fail again, and even last season's national championship, a triumph that should define his legacy, risks being eclipsed. Now, I found that interesting because really, we are the ones who have the say on this. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. And while I don't even want to think about it, I am curious how other Buckeyes feel. Going into the playoffs next year, let's say, you lose that game in Ann Arbor. Or even worse, the Buckeyes have to win that game to get in, and they lose it, and they get knocked out of the playoffs in Ann Arbor. Ryan Day wins a national championship at 24, comes back the next year, misses the playoffs, and loses again to them for the 5th straight year, which means when Michigan comes to town in 2026, the day that ball kicks in November of 26, it will have been 7 years. So 2019 in November to November of 2026, 7 years since we've seen on the field Ohio State beat that team. Last year entering the season, there was a lot of talk. What if Ryan Day loses to Michigan? Should he be fired? And it was a hot topic in the offseason amongst Buckeye podcasts. I went on a couple other Buckeye podcasts where it was brought up. I remember it was probably like a month straight. It's like a big topic. And I was the counterpoint guy saying no. And the reason I was saying no is because I felt the previous offseason, after the Missouri loss in the Cotton Bowl, I felt like he started moving a little bit different, a little more aggressively. And one of the moves that I pointed to was Julian Sayin. Taking Julian Sayin in on top of Aaron Noland in that class was a tough thing for him to do. And it just felt like a more ruthless move, something that he would not have done before, to me. Then you had the big transfer portal class, and it just seemed to me like, look, we got a little bit of a reset button kind of getting pushed here. You have to give it at least 2 years. If he's going to operate like this, like, look out. And that's how I ended that argument. Now, of course, he went on to lose that game. And I did say at the end of the argument, now, if it happens, like, who knows? Maybe I'll be thinking totally different, but this is me in a logical state of mind. So when he loses the game, obviously I was doing the show a lot, and I wasn't calling for his job. I didn't say I want him fired, but had he been fired the day after that game, I wouldn't have been upset by it. But how are you feeling if it happens again? Sitting right here now, my logical mind is telling me that there is no way in hell, with the way this program is currently structured and the culture that is going on there that is second to none, and now a national championship in 2024, that I'm turning on this guy. I'm not turning on him. I believe he's the guy to lead this program. He can do it. And even if he should slip up, look, they might be a good team next year towards the end of the year. I don't think they'll start off good, but the final 6 games of the year, I could definitely see them getting hot, getting things together. And I could see that game being pretty evenly matched. So if they go up there and lose a relatively evenly matched game away from home in a rivalry, I'm looking at it as one game. It's that game happening that day. And I'm not going to attach it to the previous games. because he's now won a national championship. I know he can do it. I believe he'll do it again. All right. This is me in a logical state of mind, Tony. That's correct. Tony, I was at the press conference with today. He stuck me in the corner, guys. Stuck me over in the corner. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, Texas, let's go over a little bit of Texas as they had their second scrimmage as well. So a little different setup down there. After they have their scrimmage, Sark comes out, talks to the media, and tells everybody what happened. We try to look for leaks from guys like Gerdeman. Anyway, scrimmage one, the big news coming out was the defensive line whooped the offensive line. I mean, they whooped them up. They ate them, even their second string guys. Scrimmage number two, the offensive line held up a lot better. The offense in general did a lot better. One turnover on a center quarterback exchange. And Sark did say that the offensive line, probably the thinnest group on the roster. So it's very thin. We know it's very young. It bodes well. It bodes well for the Bucks. A couple explosive plays by guys like Khalil Lockett, who is a freshman wide receiver that he's just a total stud. My man Dalen McCutcheon from Lovejoy, that's Peyton Pierce's high school. Bucks were in on him, but he ended up committing to FSU. Then he flipped to Texas, and he has been their second best freshman wide receiver in camp. Not Jamie French. Jamie French has been third. At running back, Quinn Weisner had an explosive play. Now, last week, their superstar running back, CJ Baxter, who is coming off an injury, he was out all year. He looked fantastic on Saturday, and they were easing him in. They were potentially going to have him on a pitch count against Ohio State. And Sark came out afterwards and said, I was really set on being overly cautious. I've changed my tune. I told him when we met after the last scrimmage that I've changed my tune. We're going to be a little more aggressive than what I thought. And he wants it that way. He continues to give me confidence that I can be aggressive in the way he's responding day after day after day. So Sark is planning on using a whole lot of Baxter, and that's not great news. That dude's electric. He's a hell of a weapon. But that offensive line, they're still rounded into shape. I definitely think that the Bucks got an advantage with Ohio State's defensive line versus the Texas offensive line, and vice versa. Flip it around the other side. I think Texas has an advantage there as well, but not as much as Ohio State has an advantage against their offensive line. The Texas D-line is stout and it's deep. Matter of fact, their whole defense in general, really, really good defense. And it's going to be one hell of a test for the Buckeyes offense. If Texas fans have any complaints about Steve Sarkisian, it is his offense in the red zone. It's been subpar. It's struggled in 22, 23, and 24. Ohio State's did too up until last year, right? 22, 23 was infuriating how often they stalled out in the red zone. Got it together last year. Going to be curious to see how that comes about this year. But Sark's offense, in the scrimmage, he said they missed a couple of opportunities, quite frankly. So not getting better yet. We'll see what happens game one. On defense, he said they got 15 or 16 guys that are bona fide starters. So their edge guys were great. Their tackles batted a bunch of Arch Manning's balls. Cornerback Manny Muhammad was very good. And last year, Texas fans were so bitter about Jeremiah Smith. So they got a freshman named Ryan Wingo last year. And they were so mad. They were so mad all the attention Jeremiah Smith was getting. I remember I actually did a short on this, making fun of one of their guys who was just like, Ryan Wingo's better. A kid from Ohio State. You can't be that good and be that big. It just doesn't work that way. But he was. Anyway, another article I wanted to hit on. This was hysterical. So I found this on one of the Texas sites. I'd tell you which one, but they have as many as we do. Like nobody has as many websites dedicated to the football program as Ohio State. Texas might be close, but it states, coming out of St. Louis University High School in the class of 24, Ryan Wingo was one of 7 wide receiver prospects to earn a 5-star. The most high profile are undoubtedly Alabama's Ryan Williams and Ohio State's Jeremiah Smith, whose standout true freshman campaigns propelled them to superstar status. Wingo, on the other hand, was part of a Longhorns receiving corps, which featured future NFL draft picks Matt Golden and Gunnar Helm, along with veterans DeAndre Moore and Isaiah Bond. As a result, Wingo's statistical output didn't mirror Smith or Williams during his first season. Williams and Smith emerged as their respective teams' number one targets, seeing a litany of passes come their way weekly. Wingo arguably would have been among the trio had he seen the number of opportunities that the two of them did. Smith hauled in 71 for 1223 on 98 targets. Williams, 48 passes on 87 targets. Meanwhile, Wingo was at best a fourth option in the Longhorns offense. Wingo, a future stud, not in the same category as JJ, not in the second tier as Ryan Williams. And that's just a fact. The guy's really good. But the funniest part here is the end where they quote Wingo and he says, I think the speed of the game and the adjustment of it, man, the defensive backs are just way more aggressive in college. They're super handsy and it makes it really hard to get their hands off you. So he admits, just like any other freshman, he had a pretty steep learning curve. That didn't affect JJ. It wasn't about targets. There's a reason he was the number one. Speaking of JJ, I'm sure some of you guys saw this over the weekend. I hate the Heisman Trophy sometimes because I hate the way it's voted on. I do love the award, though. I love the award. It's prestigious. It's one of the categories I use to differentiate blue blood programs because it doesn't mean as much as it used to me. But when I was younger, man, it was just a huge deal. The Bucs haven't had one since Troy, and I want one bad. Every year, I feel like there are so many bozo voters that vote for that Heisman that don't pay attention. They don't pay attention, and you'll see someone in the middle of the season start to get momentum. And then they become this runaway train, and you see them just win in a landslide, all because of the momentum and because the Heisman voters don't really pay attention. They just go with the flow. And all of a sudden, that guy's just a runaway winner. And it irks me. And while it is so difficult for a wide receiver to win the Heisman, they have to have huge statistics. I really believe that Jeremiah Smith has a shot at winning it without ridiculous statistics. Because I think that, so last year, like 1,200 yards on 75 catches with like 15 touchdowns. I think if he can get around 15 to 1,700 yards and 20 touchdowns, which isn't ridiculous, that he could potentially win it, because a lot of games we know are going to be played like Texas played him last year, where they are so focused on anyone's going to beat us, but not him. We're going to do whatever it takes. And they have the ability to do that. They have the ability to do that for the most part. Ohio State can get creative and still get him the ball. He's still going to get some. I don't think we'll ever see a game like Texas again where he's just totally shut out. But when we see defenses totally adjusting what they do, and if Ohio State can burn them and really take advantage of them, I definitely think that he's got a chance. And the reason I think so is because Jeremiah is no longer a famous football player. Jeremiah has crossed over into national celebrity status. And that is powerful when it comes to something like the Heisman. A couple of months ago on Juck on Bucks, I was talking to you about my brother was at the Dick's Sporting Goods down the street, and Jack Sawyer was down there signing autographs. Took my little nephews. And Jeremiah did the same thing over the weekend. I'm pretty sure Jack's did not look like this. Mayhem. Our man has totally crossed over, man. Crossed over. That is a different kind of famous. That's superstar status. Now, I can't go this show without bringing up this 2014 playoff. Anybody who knows me knows I can't let this go. I'm sorry. Tony Petitti this guy cares nothing about college football, and he doesn't even try to hide it. And it really isn't his fault. This is on the Big Ten. They hired a baseball TV guy and gave him orders to maximize money. Go get it. And shame on the Big Ten for this hire. But this guy, his marching orders and what he's trying to do is just despicable. Automatic bids for the Big Ten and the SEC each receive 7, the ACC and the Big 12, 5. Other bids, 2 automatic bids would go to the best non-Power 4 conference teams and 2 at-large selected by the College Football Committee. Games on campus, that's great. The format would allow for 20 playoff games on college campuses. We know 2 things. One, this is an obvious ploy to make the 4-4-2-2-1-3 look more appealing to those that don't like it. I personally do like it. This is ridiculous. But number 2 is this is absolutely Tony's long-term plan. 100%. They want to get us broken in on 14, then 16 before they double it. That is the goal, at least for Tony. And there are 0 positives of this for college football as a whole. There are a couple of winners in a format like this. It's not college football or college football fans in general. Immediate money for the Big Ten and the SEC, though I think long-term, it's a bad strategy for money long-term. And programs like Syracuse, Iowa, Baylor, Wisconsin, those kind of programs, they're the big winners here. Like, just to put in context what a proposal looks like with that many teams. These are the type of teams in the Big Ten that would be getting in. So in the last 7 years, shout out to my man, Tony Gerdeman, who ran these numbers. The Big Ten team who finished 7th, and that's an automatic qualifier, the 7th place Big Ten team had conference records of 4-5 more times than it had a record of 5-4. So technically, these teams are 7-5 or 8-5, but we're seeing so many of them now play 3 cream puffs that we're really talking about 4-5 and 5-4 teams. And we're increasing the playoffs to see schools make the playoffs that are 500 with average teams. These are average teams. This is insane. This is insane. Like, we go from wondering when we enter the season if Clemson and Ohio State, LSU, Penn State, Michigan, Alabama, are they going to make the playoffs? To, are Illinois, Purdue, Michigan State going to make the play? Like, that's what we transition our line of thinking. And all those good teams, all the games that they play are no longer anywhere near as interesting because the stakes don't really matter. They'll be entertaining. We'll watch them. It's football, but the stakes don't matter. They're all getting in. Like, what year can you imagine? Forget Ohio State. Come on now. Forget Ohio State. We're talking schools like USC is a every year playoff team, no matter what. Oregon, Washington, like Michigan State. Michigan State is a playoff team probably this year. I think they're going to win half their games. Nebraska, like this is just the most ridiculous thing ever, and I can't even believe it. I can't believe that this is real. I can't believe that this is the guy that's running the Big Ten, and he's just been a disaster. Nothing he's done has been right. I thought we had it bad with Kevin Warren. I thought we had it bad with Jim Delaney. I miss Jim Delaney. Jim Delaney was great compared to Warren, now Petitti. 2027 Buckeyes quarterback commit, Brady Edmonds, my dude, Brady the Juckeye. Brady, apparently in an article written by Adam Gorney, I'm going to have to ask Brady about this. So apparently Oregon and particularly Penn State were really pushing Brady hard this summer, trying to flip Brady off Ohio State. That's not going to happen. Anyway, Brady talked further to Gorney in this interview and said that he just loves Billy Fessler. And Billy Fessler said Ohio State is his dream job and he's not going anywhere. Brady loves that because he's a little younger and Chip's pushing like 60. He's also working very hard on Brock Williams. Brock Williams, the number 1 or number 2 tight end in the country out of Illinois. Brock also not down to, but he's really considering Ohio State and Georgia. Brady studiously said, Georgia just took like 3 tight ends in 2026, which they did. They did. One of them from Ohio that Ohio State didn't offer, curiously. Anyway, both Brady and Brock will be in town for the Texas game. So, yes, Kevin Warren, that's our guy. I ponder on the weekend show in my captain's update video. Now that Sonny Styles has won the Bill Willis Block O Award, he relinquishes number 6. Will Devin Sanchez take number 6 over? That's what Devin wore in high school. And Devin confirmed via Twitter he will be rocking his high school number. He's switching to 6 from 4. I thought it was pretty cool that Devin and Jeremiah were both number 4 on the offense and defense. But I think Devin looks great in 6. So I'm pretty happy about that. Buckeyes transfer portal target Quentin Joyner was the original running back that they wanted before CJ Donaldson. And he was out of USC. So he comes in, visits, and it looked like the Buckeyes were going to lock him down. And then all of a sudden, you hear Texas Tech is in on him. Well, at the time, we didn't realize what Texas Tech was up to. And the dude ends up signing with Texas Tech. And I'm sitting there thinking, what in the heck? How in the world would this guy sign with Texas Tech over Ohio State? And then we found out, of course, what Texas Tech was up to. And turns out he just injured himself. He is out for the year with a knee injury, as is Michigan 5-star freshman tackle Andrew Babalola. So, bad news for them. All right, guys, I am done with everything that I had to say. Now, let me get to a couple of your comments. Feel free to drop any questions or comments you would like brought up on the show. I have a couple of yours starred here. Gabby says, would love to hear your thoughts later in the show on how our rookie Buckeyes are performing at NFL camps. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Look, here's the thing that I love. Lathan Ransom, as a freshman, he's coming. He's not supposed to be a starter. One of their insiders, one of the Panthers insiders said that he is almost sure that Lathan Ransom going to become a starter. Cody Simon in Arizona, he wasn't supposed to come in and be a starter. He's about to earn a starting job. Simmons, they're saying Simmons looks like a franchise left tackle. You know what's great, though? I saw a picture of Simmons. So it was the Cardinals rookies, not the Cardinals rookies, the Cardinals Buckeyes with the Chiefs Buckeye. And they were just on the field together. And Simmons next to Paris, like it's not even comparable. Not comparable. Paris is so much bigger, so much wider. But Simmons is so athletic and so nasty that he is that kind of dude. But they're just tremendous. Disappointed that we haven't seen Will get to play. This guy, Ohio State fans swim in pools with their shirts on. I don't even know what that means, bro. I don't even know what that means. We're pasty Ohioans. All right, I'll own it. Rod says it doesn't help that the talking heads on ESPN try crowning a Heisman by week 5. That is for sure. Troy, when Day put an injured Will Howard back in instead of Brown in that Michigan game, it told me Day had no faith in him. That's a great point, Troy. I was pretty livid. I was pretty livid at that point because it sure seemed like Will was just messed up, man. Also, let's be honest, that would have been one of the cooler stories ever if Brown could have taken over and won that game. JG, cheers from Canton. Appreciate you, buddy. Terry says, Texas fan telling me Simmons is about to crush Sayin. I asked him how many sacks he had against our depleted O-line last year. The answer is 0. And what he's referring to is this right here. So Colin Simmons, Texas stud edge, put this on his Instagram, a photo of Julian and tagged Ohio State football. We get the message. We see what he's trying to say here. Okay. We got you, Colin. We'll see what's up. No longer the man, says Chuck. Don't forget to bask in last season one last time. Truly a magical season. Listen, basking, like, all right, I'll do it one last time, but it's time to turn the page. It's showtime now. That's forever lives in our memory as a wonderful season. But now we got to go do it again. I'm not trying for one. I want a little mini dynasty going here. Eric, what are your thoughts on the linebacker room being the most dominant on the defense? I think it's the best room on the defense. Richie, I am going to Massillon Glenville. As a matter of fact, absolutely. I'm going to Massillon Glenville. Can't wait. I want to go talk to Sincere and Jameer Perez afterwards, get a little interview with them for the show. The Duck Knight, Texas is in my top 3 natty contenders. I just don't think they have a great shot in week 1 against Ohio. Yeah. You're one of the few outside of the Scarlet and Gray that I've heard say that, my friend. Billy, what's up, buddy? All right. My man says, wrap it up, Jux. You're rambling. He's probably right. All right, friends. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining me, as always, on Buckeye Huddle Primetime. We will be back here on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until then, have a great night. Appreciate you so much. Talk to you soon. Juck on Buckeye Huddle Primetime out.